And when you're compromising, you gotta know that you will not get 100% of all that you want. But I think they've done a pretty good deal.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, the new debt ceiling bill moving forward in the House at this hour, where lawmakers stand right now as the White House believes it will make it to the president's desk. And another mass shooting, this time in Florida. Bystanders set running for cover as shots rang out along the boardwalk. What we've learned so far after 9 people are left injured. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And one mother is on a mission to increase resources and save lives. How students are also getting involved after an alarming uptick in suicide rates.
Knowing I had come that far to get here, it made me feel very proud of myself.
And the nation's best spellers hitting the stage to show off their skills. We're going to have a live report as the Scripps National Spelling Bee kicks off. Scripps News Live begins right now. Hello and welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Tuesday. I'm Veronica Cruz. It is crunch time right now on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers are back to work after the long weekend, and they have just days to get a deal to raise the debt ceiling done. The bipartisan deal now facing its first test in the House Rules Committee. That committee made up of 9 Republicans, 4 Democrats. They have to clear the bill before it can go to the full House. Now, if it is approved for consideration, the full House is expected to vote on the bill tomorrow. We have team coverage for you on today's developments. Correspondent Haley Bull has been tracking developments for us from the White House. But we begin right here with congressional correspondent Nate Reed, who has more on what you can expect from Capitol Hill.
The House Rules Committee is going to be the first big test for the Fiscal Responsibility Act. That's the name of the bill that Speaker McCarthy and President Biden were able to reach agreement on that would raise the debt ceiling for the next 2 years, preventing the U.S. from defaulting as soon as June 5th. Though the panel is normally just a rubber stamp for bills that receive a vote in the House of Representatives, there are 3 ultra-conservative members, Thomas Massie, Ralph Norman, and Chip Roy, who all sit on the panel. Representative Norman and Representative Roy have already said that they are opposed to the piece of legislation. It's unclear which way Representative Massie will vote.
Not one Republican should vote for this deal.
Yes.
Not one. If you're out there watching this, every one of my colleagues, be very clear. Not one Republican should vote for this deal. It is a bad deal. No one sent us here to borrow an additional $4 trillion to get absolutely nothing in return.
Ultimately, the Rules Committee is going to be a key test to see whether the bill will have the Republican support needed once it reaches the House floor tomorrow, provided the vote later today in the Rules Committee does go as planned. Ultimately, this bill is not aiming to please the ultra-conservative wing of House Republicans or the progressive wing of House Democrats. It is going to be moderate support that gives this bill a fighting chance at making it to President Biden's desk before June 5th, preventing the U.S. from defaulting on its debt for the first time in American history. Nathaniel Reed, Scripps News, the Capitol.
All right, Nate, thank you so much for that. Now we get to the White House and our Haley Bull for more team coverage. Haley?
Good afternoon. The administration is urging lawmakers to pass this bill. President Biden has said he feels good about it. The administration expressing confidence. Listen.
I never say I'm confident what the Congress is going to do, but I feel very good about it. I've spoken to a number of the members. I spoke to McConnell. I spoke to a whole bunch of people. And it feels good. We'll see when the vote starts.
The president is expected to be speaking with congressional members daily and receiving updates from his legislative team. Biden has urged those with concerns to, quote, talk to him. Administration officials pointing to preserving priorities in their landmark legislation with this bill.
Preventing default is absolutely essential for hardworking Americans. The second is for members of the Progressive Caucus who voted for all of the signature legislation of this administration over the past couple of years that has led to the creation of 12.7 million jobs and the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, things like the CHIPS and Science Act that will allow us to build a semiconductor industry in this country, the infrastructure law, the largest investment in clean energy ever in the Inflation Reduction Act. Those are protected and funded in this agreement. And so if you voted for those items, you should vote for this as well.
Now, the White House has acknowledged it's a compromise, but is touting that it prevents default, views it as maintaining key parts of their landmark legislation passed during the Biden administration, and preventing what they view as more extreme Republican cuts. The bill essentially keeps non-defense spending flat and would suspend the debt until 2025. It funds defense and veterans medical care, something both sides tout. Medicaid is not touched. Another point that both sides underscore: an agreement over permitting reforms. It repurposes COVID-19 emergency funds. It also rolls back about a quarter of IRS funding approved for the next decade. It includes pay-as-you-go, which the administration points to the waiver authority for the OMB director in that provision. It includes changes to temporary assistance to needy families. It also includes expanded work requirements for food assistance, but also more exemptions. It does not include the tax revenue Biden had pushed for. Meanwhile, lawmakers have a firmer date for when the debt limit needs to be raised in order to avoid default after the Treasury Department refined its ex-date estimate to June 5th. Haley Bull, Scripps News, Washington.
All right, so the House Rules Committee is considering that package today, but the big question remains, will this new bill pass and keep the U.S. from defaulting on its debt? Rachel Snyderman can help answer those questions for us. She is the Senior Associate Director of Business and Economic Policy at the Bipartisan Policy Center and joins us now live. Rachel, thanks for being here. So we know that this bill isn't going to go anywhere unless it makes it out of committee first. And there are lawmakers, like you just heard, on both sides of the aisle who aren't happy with this deal. So what do you make of it, and do you think it's going to pass?
Well, thanks, Veronica, for having me. And I think that it's important to note that this deal reflects the hard work of compromise. Bipartisanship, it can be messy, and not everyone is going to come out of that negotiating room with every element that they walked in wanting. And so I think that this bill reflects that. I also think it's important that both sides walk out of this recognizing that we do need to get our fiscal house in order. And so some of the provisions that we've seen in this, such as the caps on non-defense discretionary spending over the next 2 years, and kind of finding those opportunities that both sides have come together to agree on to really curb our fiscal outlook in the long run, would just do that. And so I do think that we'll see over the next few days both House and Senate leadership feel confident that they can reach an agreement and find reach agreement when it comes to the votes ahead of June 5th.
And I wanted to circle back on something that you said, which was that this deal is being done in a bipartisan fashion. Now, looking back, historically speaking, 2011, we saw then President Barack Obama work with John Boehner, the House Speaker at that time, to get the debt ceiling lifted. They were able to come to some sort of an agreement. They were able to compromise. What do you think were the biggest takeaways looking back? And is there anything that you think that President Biden should be doing right now that would get this deal across the finish line?
I think that's we've seen a lot of parallels to 2011, especially because, of course, President Biden was in the room as a key negotiator during when the stakes were that high in 2011, and we were also mere real hours away from a potential first step to default. And so here, we're really not in a much different level. I mean, we are concerned that Treasury's cash balances over the coming days can be, can drop particularly low. I think that, as the president and Speaker McCarthy work over the coming days, it's important to note that, even in the House, they can get 217 no votes and still get this to the Senate for passage. And I think that it really is important to highlight the fact that in a time, especially of divided government, our elected leaders need to recognize that they are there on behalf of their constituents, that it is really right now about upholding the full faith and credit of the United States, that preventing a default is essential to ensuring the strength of our economy, and that taxpayers don't feel the full effects of the default. We're already seeing costs rising, the cost of the government to borrow rise as a result of increased brinkmanship and investor fear over a potential default. We don't want to be in this position again. And so I think that we've seen from history has shown us time and time again that we can work together to raise the debt limit in a bipartisan fashion. We did so under President Trump as well. And this is time for the system to work itself once again.
I wanted to go ahead and talk about some of the sticking points, because I know that the worry from Democrats is that the bill would cut aid to social programs. Republicans are complaining that the bill doesn't go far enough in terms of cuts. So what programs would suffer? What is in this bill? An example, you were just talking about defense spending, which you said would remain flat. So what programs are going to be cut?
So I think it's important in this bill. It's non-defense discretionary spending that will remain. We'll see a slight decrease in the next year, and then a 1% growth off of 2024 in the year that follows. So where we see some differences in 2011, for example, is that in 2011 we did see defense spending cut along with that non-defense, and also no revenue raisers, tax increases back in 2011, which as in this program we're not, this deal we're not. There have been a lot of concerns about from progressives on the implementation of additional work requirements for those individuals who receive food assistance through the SNAP program and also the temporary assistance for needy families programs. But we're also seeing additionally an end to the Biden administration's student loan repayment pause. So those are elements that will have an impact on taxpayers. But I also additionally some of the changes to funding that was implemented last year for the Internal Revenue Service, clawing back, which will actually hurt some of the revenue provisions that funding aimed to really cut down on those individuals who were avoiding paying their fair share of taxes. And so I think that this again reflects the fact that not everyone is leaving the room with what they walked in with their negotiations, but this is also the priorities of this Congress. We'll wait to have to see, as the bill is voted on, signed into law, but then what the policies and the priorities that rest with this administration, the remainder of this Congress, and the next session as well.
All right, Rachel Snyderman from the Bipartisan Policy Center. Rachel, thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Here's something to note. There are 31 people who are worth more than what the U.S. Treasury has on hand right now. As of May 25th, the Treasury had $38.8 billion. Bloomberg's Billionaire Index shows people like luxury goods maker LVMH Chairman Bernard Arnault, also Tesla founder Elon Musk, are both worth more than that. And by a lot. They're worth an estimated $193 billion, $185 billion, respectively. This just in, the family of former First Lady Rosalynn Carter is saying that she has dementia. The Carter Center is saying that she is still living, quote, happily at home in Plains, Georgia, alongside former President Jimmy Carter. Family is also saying that the pair have been enjoying visits from loved ones. The announcement comes following a release in February saying the 98-year-old former president would start home hospice care after several hospital stays. The pair will be celebrating their 77th wedding anniversary this July. So to come on Scripps News Live, the United Nations Security Council set to get an update on Europe's largest nuclear power plant as Russian forces maintain their control. We're going to have more on that meeting straight ahead. Also, police departments nationwide facing a critical shortage of officers as they try to keep communities safe. We're going to take a closer look at some of the reasons why after a quick break.
The fight is on to find votes to pass the debt ceiling deal.
It doesn't get everything everybody wanted, but that's in divided government.
Will the president and McCarthy get enough votes for it to pass? Tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News Tonight.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey, you're dead and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No. There's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-339-7996 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-339-7996 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-339-7996. That's 800-339-7996. 800-339-7996.
If I had to replace my engine, the bill would have been over $4,000. But my Endurance Auto Protection Plan covered it all.
A broken AC unit costs over $1,800. A transmission, over $3,000. And an engine, over $4,000. Breakdowns used to mean paying thousands out of pocket. Until now. Go to EnduranceWarranty.com or call Endurance today and stop paying for expensive auto repairs. Call 877-204-1467 or visit EnduranceWarranty.com for a free quote.
Scripps News investigates stolen orphans in Ukraine. Jason Bellini takes you through a year of following this story, meeting Dennis, a Ukrainian orphan, at the start of the war, then forcibly kidnapped by Russian forces. Now, the desperate attempts to bring him home.
If we will not rescue him, he will die as a Russian soldier.
Scripps News investigates The Stolen Orphan, Thursday night at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News Tonight.
The mayor of Davenport, Iowa, says 5 people are unaccounted for. Now, 2 days after a partial building collapse, 2 people could still be trapped. A woman was rescued last night about 27 hours after the apartment building crumbled. Several people were pulled out of the rubble on Sunday and overnight on Monday. So far, no deaths have been reported. Some people are calling for the city to delay a demolition order in case others still need to be rescued. And the suspect in the disappearance of an Alabama teen will be extradited to the United States. Joran Vandersloot is facing fraud and extortion charges in the U.S. That's in connection to an alleged plot to extort Natalie Holloway's family for money. She vanished in 2005 during a trip to Aruba. Vandersloot and 2 other men were the last people to see her alive. Vandersloot's currently in a Peruvian prison for the murder of Stephanie Flores. Well, dozens of people who spent Memorial Day on the Hollywood, Florida boardwalk took off running as bullets flew nearby. 9 people were wounded. Investigative reporter Katie LaGrone is in Florida. She has the latest.
I'm Katie LaGrone in Hollywood Beach, where you can see life on this busy strip of boardwalk appears to be very much back to normal. We have seen plenty of people walking the strip here, many cyclists, some increased media here with their cameras, and some extra police on bicycle patrol after this Monday evening shooting left 9 people shot. 4 of them juveniles, including a 1-year-old baby. According to police, the shooting occurred just before 7 p.m. as the Memorial Day weekend was winding down. Hollywood police say it happened after a fight broke out between 2 groups of people. Surveillance video is helping to piece together the who, the why, the what of the shooting. At last check, 1 person is in custody, police searching for another. As for the victims of the 9 people shot, 6 of them are still in the hospital, 4 of them minors, 2 adults, all of them stable. In Hollywood Beach, I'm Katie LaGrone. Back to you.
All right, Katie, thank you for that. There is a nationwide struggle right now to keep communities safe. Police departments are partly blaming staffing shortages. According to the Police Executive Research Forum, resignations nearly doubled in 2022, and that's compared to 2019. Retirements jumped by 20% during the same period. Scripps News correspondent Morris Sirianni spoke with a police chief to get a better sense of how this is impacting local communities.
Cities across the U.S. continue to grapple with how to fight violent crime. Atlanta, Baltimore, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., Dallas, Phoenix, and Denver, all reporting more murders in 2022 than the previous year. New York City ended last year with a 21% rise in aggravated assaults and a 39% rise in robberies. All of this with fewer men and women signing up to protect and serve. And attrition is not just a problem for larger police departments.
Here in Asheville, the crisis is a little bit more intense than maybe some cities across America.
David Zach has been in law enforcement for nearly 4 decades. And for the past 3 years, he's served as the chief of police for the city of Asheville, North Carolina. Zach says since June 2020, more than 140 officers have walked away from the force.
Some are leaving the profession entirely, others are leaving for other agencies.
Some of the nationwide exodus can be chalked up to fallout from the pandemic. Intense scrutiny and calls for reform, particularly after the police killing of George Floyd in 2020. Chief Zach says while some Asheville officers have been replaced on any given day,
we're operating daily down about 40% of staff.
And those who are working are burnt out. In Asheville, Zach says compensation is a big reason for the hemorrhaging of officers from the department. Forbes reports the national average salary for a police officer in America is about $67,000 a year. In Asheville, the starting salary for a trainee is about $42,500 a year, with a base salary of around $46,000. In Omaha, the department is down more than 100 officers. Anthony Connor, president of the Omaha Police Officers Association, agrees one way to attract new applicants is by offering a competitive salary from day one.
We have to make sure that we're competitive with our starting pay, but also with our top pay, so that way we can retain officers.
To attract more applicants in Philadelphia and Phoenix, departments are offering signing bonuses. In Austin, after severely defunding the department, the city council approved a 4% increase in pay for all officers and cadets.
To try to solve this problem on the national level is you have to make sure your current officers are happy. You have to try to build morale.
The New York Times reports 2022 saw the highest number of NYPD officers resign in 2 decades. Sergeant Connor says a trend in the profession sees officers in big cities like New York leaving for smaller towns amid aggressive recruitment efforts to poach those who are unhappy.
If they're sick of their city that attacks them and criticizes them, cut their budget, that has not happened in Omaha, we'll take them all.
Chief Zach says while some of the criticism placed on law enforcement is warranted, he hopes the negative stories won't deter good applicants from wanting to join the profession.
You know, you look at what happened in Memphis, obviously, the response in Uvalde, but then you got these guys from Nashville go in and, you know, change the narrative once again. And
Mara Sirianni, Scripps News, Atlanta.
We're hearing from the 11-year-old boy who police shot in Indianapolis, Mississippi. An officer shot Darren Murray in the chest on May 20th. Authorities were responding to a domestic disturbance call at Murray's home, and his mother says that moments after one of the officers told everyone to come outside, he shot her son in the living room. Murray described the pain that he felt on ABC's Good Morning America.
I came out doing this. When Greg shot me, I did this to my chest. It felt like a taser, like a big punch to the chest. That's what it felt like getting shot.
Did you think you were dying at the time?
I actually thought I was about to lose my life.
Murray spent 5 days recovering in the hospital. His family is calling for the officer to be fired. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigations is now examining the shooting. 17-year-old Ralph Yarl is receiving a lot of support as he recovers from his gunshot injuries. Yarl accidentally rang the doorbell at the wrong house last month in Kansas City, Missouri. Police say 84-year-old Andrew Lester shot Yarl in the head. The teen participated in a Memorial Day race for brain injury awareness yesterday, and about 1,000 people participated. Many registered under Team Ralph. Caitlin Canoe with Scripps News Kansas City has more now on the event.
For the first time since he was shot in the head on April 13th, Ralph Yarl made a major public appearance. Although he wasn't up to addressing the crowd, his mother spoke on his behalf before the start of the Going the Distance for Brain Injury race.
Just want to thank everybody here for their support. Thank the Brain Injury Association of Kansas City for all the support and letting us know that there's a family out there that we can reach out to.
Given the migraines and more he's battling, it wasn't easy, but his family says he wanted to join this 1.5-mile walk portion of the race, Also, he could give back to the community that stands ready to support him.
Ralph is the kind of person who will do something not because it's good for him, but because it's good for other people.
He did say, I want to do it. Even though today is a busy day for him compared to what his new normal is, he was really excited to be here.
Beyond picking up a medal for his participation, the real reward for today was showing Jarl this sea of runners and walkers means he's not alone.
He was even talking to some of the brain injury survivors, like he met some of them and he was sharing stories with them. And I was impressed to see that too. I was happy that he got to do that.
And there are others with TBIs who stand ready to help guide Jarl through the recovery process, including Tyler Moss, the Kansas City police officer who made a remarkable recovery after he was shot in the head in the line of duty almost 3 years ago.
He's going to have to deal with some things that he's going to be frustrated with, and he's going to have to just try to stay positive. I hope I can be an inspiration to him and hopefully meet him one day, which is I want to be able to be that resource that he can potentially need in the future if I can be.
We asked Officer Moss what advice he has for Jarl going forward. He said, try to stay positive, stick to the rehab, and remember, when it comes to recovering from a traumatic brain injury, it's a marathon, not a sprint. In Kansas City, I'm Caitlin Canute reporting.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, suicide is one of the leading causes of death for people ages 10 to 34. How one nonprofit is hoping to raise awareness and let people know that they are not alone.
Did you make that call?
Honey, we already have Medicare. Why do I need to call?
Alan, the Feldman said we may be able to get additional benefits with a Medicare Advantage plan right here in our zip code with $0 monthly premiums.
Honey, what do you mean additional benefits? We turned 65, we got Medicare. That's all there is to it, right?
I'm talking about Medicare Part C, commonly called Medicare Advantage. We have traditional Medicare, which is only Medicare Parts A and B, but not Part C.
Wait. So not everyone on Medicare is a Part C plan?
No, that's why we need to call, because there may be plans available with additional benefits that aren't covered under Medicare Parts A and B. We don't have a Medicare Part C plan which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits in Medicare Part C.
What kind of extra benefits?
There are great plans that may be available with extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Did you say dental?
Yes, dental. Medicare Part C plans could include dental benefits that help cover routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, plus dental x-rays, fillings, gum disease treatment, and dentures.
We need that. I'm calling.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans with additional benefits available that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there's a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically. Call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Call 800-817-7602. 800-817-7602.
Are diapers destroying your confidence? Men's Liberty can help. Our discreet external device is safe, sanitary, and keeps you dry 24 hours, day and night. Step into the spotlight and do more of what you love with Men's Liberty. It's been ordered over 5 million times by thousands of satisfied fans. Call now to get a free week supply with your first order. There's no obligation, just the opportunity to try the most revolutionary solution to incontinence ever made. Unlike diapers, Men's Liberty is a long-term answer to dealing with incontinence. Make the choice to finally move forward with your life by calling Men's Liberty today. We'll answer all of your questions about how our completely unique device works and how Medicare can cover it. Dealing with expensive, uncomfortable diapers is no way to live. Men's Liberty lets you get back out there with more freedom and confidence to be you. Ready to find out more about our offer to get a free week supply? Then don't wait. Call Men's Liberty today.
Hey there, welcome Welcome back to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Tuesday. I'm Veronica Cruz. Here are some of the other stories that we are keeping an eye on for you. A federal court decision will allow OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma to settle thousands of legal claims related to its role in the opioid crisis. The ruling also protects members of the Sackler family who own Purdue. The Sacklers have said that they wouldn't pay their share of a settlement or give up ownership if they weren't shielded from lawsuits. A bankruptcy court judge still has to approve the settlement. Striking workers crowded the streets of Disneyland Paris today for the second time in a week. The workers carried union flags as they marched and demanded better pay in the face of inflation and rising costs of living. Guests could still access most attractions, but Main Street USA have been completely gridlocked by almost 1,000 striking cast members. And strong winds and rain have been pelting the Philippines and Taiwan. It's all from Typhoon Mawar as it slowly makes its way to Japan. Large waves have been crashing onto the eastern shoreline of Taiwan, where people had to secure their boats and homes. Over in the Philippines, officials have been warning of a heightened risk of landslides. Well, the United Nations Security Council has been meeting today for a briefing on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine. The plant is the biggest nuclear power station in Europe and is being held by Russian forces. Ukrainian workers are still operating the plant. The director of the International Atomic Energy Agency will be reporting on the current conditions at the site. Now, the meeting is focusing on protection of the plant and avoiding a nuclear catastrophe. New York correspondent Will Denslow is live from the United Nations for us. And Will, I understand that this meeting just got underway. What more can you tell us about what's happening and what the council is hoping to accomplish here?
Well, we've just heard moments ago from the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi. He said that it's now been 4 times since he has addressed the UN Security Council to discuss squarely the issue, the concerns surrounding the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in Ukraine, of course, the biggest plant of its kind in the entirety of Europe. He says it is the most significant time he has addressed the Security Council because there are real concerns there'll be an increase in military activity in the area in the coming weeks. Of course, it's believed that we could see this area see increased fighting during this long anticipated Ukrainian counter-offensive. Now, of course, for months now, Ukraine has been blaming Russia of using this site to fire from Russia in kind has blamed Ukraine for firing into the Zaporizhzhia plant. And then essentially we've heard from Rafael Grossi not putting any blame on, just saying that there needs to be strict criteria in place to ensure this site is protected to prevent loss of life, catastrophic loss of life, not just for Ukrainians, not just for Russians, but for the wider region in general. Now, we've heard from him speaking a month ago about the severity of the situation. Let's have a listen to see what he said last month.
I think that in general the situation is not improving. It is obvious that military activity is increasing in this whole region. So every possible measure and precaution should be taken so that the plant is not attacked and can be protected.
Now, Rafael Grossi has previously released 7 pillars to what he wants to see in the international community. Baidu, he has just unveiled 5 concrete principles he wants to see all parties engage and to adhere to going forward. These include no attacks on or from the plant, to see Zaporizhzhia not be seen as a base to store heavy weaponry. He said that there should be no risk to the off-site power supply to the Zaporizhzhia plant. He says that all systems on the supply chain connected to the plant must be protected and that these overarching principles must be adhered to. He said that this isn't looking to attack anyone. He says it is essentially in the benefit of everyone concerned.
And Will, you're saying that he's saying that he believes the situation is not improving. This is obviously what he's recommending, but is there any type of consensus as to how best to protect the plant or maybe enforce IAEA nuclear rules? What are the current regulations?
The message from Rafael Grossi is very clear indeed. He says that essentially all sides have been rolling a dice and it is is potentially just luck that has avoided any kind of nuclear disaster. He says that eventually that luck will run out. He says that it is possible to prevent a disaster, but this is the best way to start. Now, of course, we've seen him attempt to install the 7 pillars to protect, which very much builds on those 5 concrete principles that have been unveiled. The message from the IAEA, and Rafael Grossi has met with both Russian and Ukrainian officials over the past month or so to try and make that point as far as the UN is concerned, that these aren't principles designed to attack one nation or the other. This is purely a principle to try and keep this plant absolutely protected. Of course, there has been plenty of pushback as far as Kyiv is concerned. They say that they are worried that any kind of agreement to any principles would essentially recognize Russia's control of the region, something they're very reluctant to do. Of course, Russia has very much pointed the finger of blame at Ukraine for attacking this plant. So, of course, yet again, we see in this conflict neither side showing any room to maneuver, neither side looking to compromise. The IAEA is trying to thread that needle and to make sure that at the very least some kind of security parameters can be put in place at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant.
And the danger of all of this in the meantime as the fighting continues, even as we speak. Will Denzel reporting live from the United Nations. Will, thank you so much. So the federal trial for a man accused of opening fire inside of a Pittsburgh synagogue is now underway. 11 worshipers were killed in October 2018 at the Tree of Life Synagogue. Robert Bowers could be facing the death penalty if he is convicted on some of the charges, including 11 counts of hate crimes resulting in death. Assistant U.S. Attorney Sue Song has been saying, quote, the depths of the defendant's malice and hate can only be proven in the broken bodies of the victims. Prosecutors previously turned down Bowers' offer to plead guilty in exchange for a life sentence. His attorneys say that he has serious mental illness, including schizophrenia. President Biden and the First Lady spent part of their morning at a memorial mass for Beau Biden. The president's late son died 8 years ago today from cancer. The service took place at St. Joseph on the Brandywine Church in Delaware. President Biden mentioned Beau during his Memorial Day address. He is previously saying that he believes that there may have been a connection between Beau's cancer and the burn pits that he was exposed to during his tour of Iraq as a member of the Delaware National Guard. In election news at this hour, Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis has been hitting the campaign trail in 3 key states beginning today. The Florida governor will begin in Iowa tonight. Then he's going to head to New Hampshire and then South Carolina. All 3 states will be hosting early Republican primaries or caucuses. Analysts are saying it is an opportunity for him to connect with the voters.
Ron DeSantis' team for years has worked hard to shield him from media scrutiny. There's very, very few unscripted moments. So now he's going off to Iowa and New Hampshire, where these voters expect to sit down and talk to him face to face, one-on-one, to ask him the same questions multiple times. I mean, he's not going to be able to hide.
The DeSantis campaign says it raised $8 million during his first 24 hours as a candidate. More than 80% of Americans are feeling stressed out at work. That's all according to the American Psychological Association. In a 2022 survey, Americans told the association that they are feeling a lack of acceptance, experiencing toxic work environments, and also that pay hasn't been offsetting inflation. Experts say widespread staffing shortages and bigger workloads are also leading to job burnout. They say this, compounded with a lack of employee recognition, has been creating the perfect storm.
People feel that they are maybe sort of being overlooked and not necessarily appreciated for what they are doing. A lot of the time we bottle that stress up, and that makes it even more stressful because it just keeps accumulating without us being able to express it.
Now, to manage stress, experts are saying to focus on 4 pillars: limiting your sugar intake, moving your body, getting enough sleep, and adopting stress busters like maybe yoga, mindfulness, deep breathing, and exercising. In other health news at this hour, new CDC data shows that suicide deaths have been on the rise, and it's touching people of all ages and all walks of life. National correspondent Andy Guajardo spoke with one Arizona mother whose world was shattered when her son took his own life in 2018. Now she's been using her grief to save others.
Their memories captured on camera, kind of a jokester, a prankster, a little bit funny.
Moments and milestones.
This one is graduation.
This mother wants to remember forever.
He was excited. I remember it was windy, and he laughed at me because I had a bobby pin his hat on to keep it on that day.
Just weeks after Carson Von Aspen graduated high school in 2018, and right before his 18th birthday, his world went dark.
And I just remember saying, he's dead. He's dead.
Tracy struggled to make sense of the phone call that shattered her world.
Just the belief that there was a mistake. There had to be a mistake.
But everything pointed to a painful reality.
He died by suicide on a Tuesday morning.
Tracy, a neurovascular nurse, says her son, a charismatic, caring, and passionate varsity basketball player with plans to join the Army, did not display suicidal signs.
No, nothing.
He left the world without an explanation.
My son, who had a great family unit, who had, great friends, a supportive school system.
Suicide affects people of all ages. A 2022 CDC report shows suicide deaths increased in 2021 by 4%. It's the second leading cause of death among people 10 to 34 years old.
It was pretty close to being me earlier that year.
Rihanna Alexander says she battled depression and anxiety her junior year at Chandler High School in Arizona. The same year, she says 3 students in her school district died by suicide in less than 2 weeks.
I was definitely having suicidal thoughts. I got pretty close to attempting suicide a couple times.
With support from her mom, she got help and graduated this year. A day she once feared she would never live to see.
We are seeing a rise in some mental health symptoms in adolescents, such as anxiety, symptoms of depression.
Natalia Chimbo Andrade, the board chair of education with the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, says the uptick in suicide deaths nationwide is alarming. Tracy says she's accepted she'll never know why her son took his life, but in his honor, she's vowed to help teens find hope.
I think there's definitely been positive changes from a tragic outfall.
Tracy and Rihanna both started nonprofits, Carson's Crusaders and Arizona Students for Mental Health. They're pushing for emotional learning to help teens manage stress, calling for an increase in suicide training and education, and advocating for better mental health to help save lives. A call that can help breathe hope and bring back light into a loved one's life.
He wanted to help people, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Just absolutely heartbreaking, but these women are helping make a difference by sharing their stories. Now, if you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, you can call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, that number 988. It's available 24 hours, and help is just a phone call or a text away. Addie Guajardo, Scripps News, Phoenix, Arizona.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, it is finally here. It is officially Spelling Bee Week. We're going to be taking you to Maryland, where the buzz is growing as more than 200 of the nation's best spellers compete for the Scripps Spelling Bee title. And we want to hear from you. You can always give us a call on Scripps News Viewer Hotline toll-free. That number on your screen, 833-4SCRIPPS. Again, it's 833-472-7477. Share your comments and your story ideas.
Scripps News investigates a Ukrainian orphan kidnapped by Russian forces.
If we will not rescue him, he will die as a Russian soldier.
Thursday night at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News Tonight.
Angie, you are not going to believe what I am going to show you right now.
When a group of women put beyond flawless second skin, the latest biotech cosmetic breakthrough under one eye. Watch what happened.
I only did one eye and I see huge difference.
So far, they have put the product under my right eye and I see a dramatic difference.
I just found the golden ticket. I'm telling you, this is unbelievable.
I've shown it to my daughter and to my boyfriend. They couldn't believe it.
Look at one eye and the other. This is crazy. Everything claims to work. This is the only thing I've ever seen do this, actually before my eyes. I'm shocked.
The cosmetic world has been waiting for the first lifelike, undetectable, 24 hours waterproof synthetic skin. Introducing Beyond Flawless Second Skin.
This is astounding how good this is. Oh my God.
I've never seen results like this instantly.
Wow. Look at that. It looks like a completely different person.
It feels as though my eyes are lifted up. I feel a lot younger.
I feel like I want to tell the world about this.
Guaranteed to work. No residue, no flaking, completely undetectable. Even cosmetic surgery can't promise results this good. And now, when you apply your makeup, you're starting with a much younger, smoother base. Imagine how much better you'll look. Looking young is fun. You should give it a try.
I think this is looking pretty good for 40.
Order today and save 50% plus shipping and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Order within the next half hour and receive 2 free gifts and $80 value. Yours to keep even if you return the product. Visit nomoreeyebags.com. That's nomoreeyebags.com for even more savings. Or call the number on your screen.
Introducing the most accurate continuous glucose monitor available in America. If you're living with diabetes, this sound may save your life. This new monitor alerts you in real time to potential lows and harmful spikes without painful finger sticks. It's so easy to use, now approved for anyone over the age of 2 and proven to lower your A1C. If you administer insulin, you may qualify for a continuous glucose monitor at no cost to you. Call now. It could save your life. Call 800-791-7283. This new CGM technology immediately eliminates your pain and connects right to your smartphone device. That means no more guessing. It's easy to see your glucose number any time of the day. Call now and get free shipping, plus we'll bill your insurance company for you. Satisfaction guaranteed. Don't wait until it's too late. Take control of your diabetes now. Call 800-791-7283. That's 800-791-7283.
Hey, folks, the league is in absolute chaos. Come down to some rookie taking free throw. Got the young guys going on.
The Athletic. Subscribe today. Local, national, and worldwide headlines. Breaking down the day's biggest stories with live reporting from around the globe.
I'm Del Walters, and this is The Debrief.
Live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
Well, the nation's best spellers have gathered in Maryland for Scripps' 95th annual Spelling Bee. Exactly 229 kids between the ages of 9 to 14 are competing for this year's Scripps Cup. Preliminaries began this morning and will go on until later this evening. And those who make it through will head to the quarterfinals, which begin early Wednesday. For an inside look at the competition so far, let's bring in national correspondent Stephanie Librian. She's been reporting live from National Harbor, Maryland. She's been covering all things bee for us. So, Stephanie, on that note, I should probably ask you what the latest buzz is.
Hey, Veronica. Well, we are now down to our last group of spellers doing their round 1 and their round 2 competition kind of back to back at the same time. So the way it's been working for spellers today, they first get a word they have to spell for round 1. And then if they spell that word correctly, immediately they get their round 2 question, which is a word meaning question. So these spellers are not only expected to know how to spell all of these very long words, many of which I can't even pronounce, but they also need to know the meaning behind words as well. So it's another level of the competition that was changed a couple years ago. So we've got 229 spellers who made it all the way to D.C. to start the competition this morning and take that stage. Many of them for the first time. Nearly 80% of the spellers who qualified for the national competition this year had never qualified for the national competition before. And that means we've got a lot of first-time spellers on the stage, which is a mix of excitement and nerves for them. Take a listen to one speller I talked to earlier today.
It's something I've only seen on TV before, and like being there, it was an amazing experience, and being able to spell on that stage, knowing I had come that far to get here, it made me feel very proud of myself, definitely.
Now, Now, not only are all of these spellers just super impressive because of their ability to spell and understand words and meanings, but they're also so supportive of each other. They're high-fiving each other on stage as someone, successfully completes a round. They really encourage each other. It's not a cutthroat competition in any way. So, as I said, we've got the last group of round 1 and round 2 spellers on stage right now. There'll be a short little break. Then they'll go on to round 3, which is the last round of the spelling we'll do today before we get to those quarterfinals and semifinals that'll kick off tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay. So a little bit nerve-wracking, but also oh so exciting. Stephanie, quickly, I wanted to ask you what the most challenging word that you've heard so far is. Or maybe give us a sample of what some of the words are like.
Well, some of the words, there was one, my photographer Andrew and I were just sitting in watching the spelling for a little bit, and we hear the word and we're looking at each other like, I don't even understand. Well, it was a French word. So the word that the kid was spelling, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it right now because I'm sure I would butcher it. But it's, it's not only English words these kids are expected to spell, but a bunch of different language origins, which really just adds to how incredibly impressive and talented all these kids are.
Oh, okay. Also exciting. I can hardly wait. Stephanie, we're going to be reporting live from National Harbor. I'm going to have my dictionary out. Maybe I'll be consulting Google here and there. Probably the best way to watch.
Absolutely.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. The 95th Annual Scripps National Spelling Bee semifinals begin on Wednesday. The final round happens Thursday, and don't forget, you can watch it on Scripps News Partner Networks Ion Plus, also Ion TV. And by the way, Scripps News is a subsidiary of the E.W. Scripps Company, which also runs the Bee on a not-for-profit basis. There you go. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, 2 cousins getting ready to hit the asphalt and race. We're going to take you inside their journey from Florida to the Soapbox Derby World Championship. And we want to remind you to follow us at Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok. We'll be right back.
Mom, we're so glad you're feeling better. You gave us such a scare.
I know, honey. Me too. But I want you to know I'm at peace with my home going when my time is up. And did I also tell you that I got coverage for my funeral so you and your brother would not have to worry about expenses?
I didn't know you were saving money for your final expenses.
I haven't. I called Open Care, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $30,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
That's wonderful, Mom. But how did you pass your medical exam with your health condition? Oh, that's the best part. No medical exam is needed.
That's right. And my rates can never increase, my benefits will not decrease, and my coverage will never be canceled.
Mom, I'm so glad you called.
You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. We don't want to leave our loved ones with debt. The cost of a funeral can be $8,000 or more. A final expense life insurance plan will pay up to $30,000, which can be used for funeral and other final expenses. Call 800-915-6980 now for your free information. You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. There's no obligation. Call 800-915-6980. That's 800-915-6980.
Create an amazing website with Fiverr. You'll need your web developer, UX writer, and Amy, a Fiverr freelance graphic designer with dozens of 5-star reviews who will join your team from her favorite coffee shop. Don't forget to tip. Expand your team with a Fiverr freelancer.
How does Klein & Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein & Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein & Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein & Spector.
Sure, you'll teach her how to drive a car, then use Greenlight to power her independence with crash detection with 911 dispatch, family location sharing, and emergency SOS alerts. Invest in your best investment with Greenlight.
over flying pigs. You want to check out this flying cow. The 2-year-old named Goddess broke her leg and she couldn't get up. So first responders in Switzerland had to help her out, airlifting her to safety with a helicopter and a harness. Ooh, look, there she goes. She's going to be on the move again soon enough. Pun intended. A pair of cousins in Clearwater, Florida, gearing up to race in the Soapbox Derby World Championship in July. And this year, reigning champion Ava David is going to make the trip to Ohio, but with her cousin, Alexa Mello. Ava has her sights set on the rally stock title, while Alexa is going to be competing in the super stock division. Now, both girls are coached by former world champ Mark Ferdinand. Even more interesting, Ferdinand and his sister Jean were back-to-back world champs back in 1976 and 1977. Now the coach is hoping to repeat that feat with the cousins from Clearwater.
Pressure is off because, you know, we got what we want done accomplished, and now this year we're going to try to do it back-to-back.
By winning local titles, and Ferdinand is saying the girls are competing in different classes, all because of their age. But next year, the two will be going head-to-head. The Soapbox Derby World Championship race will take off on July 22nd. Mark your calendars, and good luck to the girls. And now for some news that is out of this world. A SpaceX rocket is on its way back to Earth, along with a former NASA astronaut and 3 paying customers. The Axiom Mission 2 crew includes Commander Peggy Whitson, who holds the record for most days in space. The historic week-long mission is only the second all-private mission to the International Space Station. The crew spent about 16 hours on board the Crew Dragon capsule before reaching the International Space Station. Now, Axiom is hoping the mission will open the door for non-professional astronauts to finally go to space. Would you go? I don't know. I think not. I'm happy on terra firma. Well, the war for Ukraine is being felt in the Russian capital. The Kremlin is saying several drones targeted residents in Moscow. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Chris Stewart is up next. He's got a full report on that. In the meantime, the news continues right here on Scripps News. Don't go too far.
You're looking pretty